go over the FAFSA and financial aid information with you. Please don't hesitate to ask questions as we go at any time. A lot of times your question is the same question someone else has, so please don't hesitate to ask those. So for financial aid, your first step to the FAFSA process is going to be applying for a user ID and password. The student needs a user ID and password and one parent, and that's going to be how you electronically sign the FAFSA. And I'm just going to go through some steps and then we'll go through the FAFSA together. But your first step is the user ID and password, and I promise that's the hardest part of the FAFSA, so please don't get discouraged during that process. So I know that you are that far, right? You've gotten a user ID, you've gotten a user ID, and that is a lot of steps for what you're getting. Yes?
So we use it for the same, like for my older child and the younger child, it's all?
Yes.
Okay.
So your parent's signature.
They'll have a separate one.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The parent's signature, you keep the same one, so it matches your social, your date of birth, and your last name, and that's your electronic signature. And you can use the same one for the parent for all your children, but each child will need their own. Yep. You'll use your user ID and password to sign the FAFSA. You'll use your user ID and password for the student to do entrance counseling and a master promissory note. Parents, if you apply for a Parent Plus loan, you'll use your user ID to do that as well. Once your FAFSA is submitted, you can make corrections if you need to. So you can log back in and make those corrections. After the school receives your FAFSA and everything is accurate, they'll send you a award notification to let you know what you're eligible for. But also, if you linked your taxes and the student's taxes and you know the information is accurate, as soon as you hit submit, you'll get a confirmation page. And right on your confirmation page will actually tell you exactly what you're eligible for as a full-time student. And that doesn't matter what school you attend, as long as you're a full-time student and the information you put on the FAFSA is accurate, that's what you can expect to receive for the year. For loans, you will have to do entrance counseling and a master promissory note. The entrance counseling explains your rights and responsibilities to repay your loans, and the master promissory note is a note stating you promise to repay, and those are both required before the school can disperse federal loans. When you are submitting the FAFSA, you're applying for Pell Grants, which is free money, work study, which is a job that you can earn money, and then federal loans, which are funds that you do have to repay. The subsidized loans, the government pays the interest while you're in school, and the unsubbed loans, interest accrue when the funds are dispersed. The Parent Plus loan is a loan that a parent can take out to help cover additional expenses. If a parent is denied the Plus loan, then the student can qualify for up to an additional $4,000 in the student unsubbed loan money. And then also, there are private student loans that students can take out in their name. A lot of times they'll need a co-signer to help cover those additional funds as well. Each school, a lot of times they'll have scholarships, so please be sure whatever school you're interested in attending that you do look at their website to apply for scholarships. They typically have a deadline, so make sure that you're keeping an eye on those as well. And then all outside scholarships, there are scholarships for just about everything. You just have to put in the time to do the research to find those. And then other resources are military, voc rehab, WIA and BIA funding. And then the total cost of attendance is like the total budget to attend school. So when a school says your total cost of attendance is this amount, it means tuition and fees, room, board, books, tools, supplies, personal expenses, and travel. And so if you were to take out a private loan to help cover those expenses, you can exceed that dollar amount. So basically it's saying that the funds are for those educational expenses, and with that amount of money you should be able to get through the year with that much. And then financial aid is for, you get a payment period, so it's like one semester at a time. Even though you're awarded for a year, you get paid one semester at a time. So if you don't complete the semester, schools are required to return the unearned portion of that federal aid back to the government, which sometimes does create a balance for the students. And then in order to continue to receive financial aid, students do need to maintain 2.0 GPA, as well as be completing at least 67% of their attempted credits. So satisfactory academic progress. And then just be sure that you're communicating with your financial aid office. If you have questions about something, if something in your family doesn't fit on the FAFSA, if something's happened, a lot of things change in 2 years, so for 23-24 FAFSAs, you'll be using your 21 taxes, so from 21 to 23, things can change. Babies, deaths, births, divorces, marriages, all those things. So if something changes and you have questions, don't hesitate to contact your financial aid office at the school you're attending. So that's just kind of a brief overview of the steps and the different things. Does anyone have a question so far?
If you're not married and say I file for Kennedy, do I get the PIN, or if he was going to fill out everything, can you get the PIN even though it's my information, or does it matter?
So whatever parent is listed on the FAFSA is the parent that will need the user ID and password because it matches your social security number and name.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so then these packets are step-by-step instructions. So it's every click of the mouse all the way through the FAFSA to kind of help alleviate any questions that you may have. So when you start, you'll go to the student aid website. You'll actually create your user ID, one for the parent and then one for the student. Just so you are aware, your cell phone number that they're going to ask you to verify, you can only have one cell phone number per user ID. So mom, if you are doing a user ID for your son or daughter, don't use your phone number for their user ID, because then when you have your user ID, you can't use your phone number again. Same with email. So students' email with students' user ID, parents' email and cell phone with parents' user ID. And then after you complete those, you will create security questions and they'll verify. So they'll have you verify your cell phone number, they'll text you a code, you enter the code. They'll have you verify your email, they'll email you a code, and then you enter the code, and then you will have a user ID, and then you'll do the same thing again for the student. And then you'll be able to start your FAFSA after you have the user ID and password. So this is important. There's always 2 FAFSAs open at the same time. So these instructions were for 22-23. You'll be doing the 23-24. Once we have those instructions completed for that exact year, I'll email them to you and then you can share that. It's basically the same thing, but just make sure you're choosing the correct year of the FAFSA, the year that you're attending. So there's always 2 years open at the same time. And then you'll enter a save key. This is just something, if you start the FAFSA and you're unable to finish it, they'll have you enter your save key and then you can log back in after you've saved the FAFSA and then go back in and finish when you have time. A lot of times I just tell people to use their zip code because if you forget it, they just have you put in your zip code. So it's a lot easier to get your save key than your user ID and password. While you're creating your user ID and password, it's super important for students and parents to make sure, double check, triple check your SOCH, your date of birth, and your last name. If they don't, so if the student is doing the FAFSA and they thought mom's birthday was on the 18th, but really it's the 19th, then that parent's not going to be able to sign because their birthday doesn't match. And then if you try to submit a user ID and password and there was an error, it'll say it doesn't match the Social Security Administration. So they do have to be exactly correct in order for them to match. And then you'll just enter basic information. So the first time you fill the FAFSA out, you are starting from scratch, you're entering everything. The second time you fill it out, it'll save your basic information. So it's really just pretty basic for a while. High school, you'll have to enter and verify your high school. You'll choose your colleges, so I think you can list up to 10 schools, and then if you plan to live on campus or off campus. So you'll be able to list those. Keep in mind, each school that you list on your FAFSA will get a copy of your FAFSA. So if you are selected for verification, which is a process where they just verify your information, then you will have 10 schools contact you and say you've been selected for verification. So you can list that many, but keep in mind, then that many will contact you to follow up as well.
What if you don't know?
So if you're completely unsure, if you had any idea, I would just pick, the ones that you were kind of thinking about. But like I said, you can choose up to 10. Sometimes having your FAFSA filled out, there'll be scholarships that'll ask for SAR information, which is your student aid report. And so by having your FAFSA filled out, then it may make the student eligible for aid. And then FSEOG is first come, first serve. It's a need-based grant at schools. And so if you have your FAFSA done early or by the priority deadline, then you may qualify for some FSEOG funding as well.
Mrs. Huber, is it true that a student must apply and be accepted at the school before they'll process the FAFSA, or is that not accurate?
Yeah, that probably is true, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. I would still encourage you to get the FAFSA done, even though you may not be admitted and accepted at the institution. You just might not get your award notification yet. But you can still submit your FAFSA so that it is completed. That shouldn't matter. And a lot of times, so like if you do your FAFSA right now, we don't quite have access to the 23-24 FAFSAs yet with our software. So even though they did it this early, it doesn't necessarily mean we'll get back to them. And that's why they give them a confirmation page. So on your confirmation page, you're going to get the same thing that you would from the school, except for they don't put work study or FSEOG on there. But the major awards, you'll know, where you're sitting to give you a good idea to start budgeting. You'll choose your housing plan. So the tech schools do not have on-campus housing, so those are off-campus. But if you plan to live in the dorms, you choose on-campus or with the parents. It'll say, are your parents married or divorced? If their parents are divorced, but mom is remarried and the student lives with mom, then the parent's marital status is married. So that's something that we see a lot. We'll get an error code that says your parents' marital status doesn't match the tax returns. It says that you're divorced, but your taxes say you filed married, filing jointly. So if the parents are divorced and then a parent is remarried and they're using that remarried parent, you do have to include step-parents information on the FAFSA. So then you'll enter information about the parents, parent 1 and parent 2, their legal residence, and then you'll get to the parent financial section, and this is where you'll link to the IRS. So you choose already completed, what tax form you completed, say if it was married, filing jointly, and then you're going to choose the proceed to the IRS. You'll enter which parent has the user ID and password, parent 1 or parent 2. You'll enter that. It'll tell you that you're leaving and you're going to the government system. And then on here, it's really important that the address matches exactly how it's listed on the taxes. So if you live on 3rd Street and on your taxes, street is written out, then you would write it out. If it's ST period, you have to put ST period. If you forget the period, it'll say try again. After you've tried so many times, then it's just going to keep saying that it's not working, even though you may have gotten it right on the 4th try. So just make sure that you double check that when you're entering that information, that the address matches exactly how it's listed on your taxes. And even though this says street address, if when you filed your taxes they put P.O. Box, put P.O. Box. So it's just whatever it says there, regardless of that it says home address, it's what's actually on your taxes. Because we've seen that where they went to H&R Block and they put P.O. Box 92 because that's how they get their mail. And then they're like, no, it says street address, and they put 124 South 3rd Street, but it has to be whatever's on the taxes. And then it'll say to transfer that information, and it'll show you everything that you're transferring right there on that page. And then it'll come back and it'll actually take you to back to the FAFSA. And so one thing that it can't transfer is parents' income. So parent 1 and parent 2, you'll actually have to put your wages for the parents on the FAFSA. Even though it did transfer your adjusted gross income, you will have to list your wages. And then there'll be some additional questions. Anytime you're unsure of what they're asking, there's a little question mark next to each question. So if you click on that, it'll tell you exactly what they're looking for with an explanation to help you understand if you need to put something. It's okay if you have zeros, that's certainly fine. And then the asset information, we do also see a lot of errors here. So on page 30 and 31, these actually tell you exactly what to include and what not to include. So you don't count your retirement. So read through these carefully when you're filling out the asset information so that you're only putting things that you do need to include for your assets. And then after the parents' information is complete, then you'll do the student's information. So if the student did not file taxes, that's fine. You just put did not file or not going to file. But if they earned wages, then you just enter their wages. If they did file, then you'll do the same step for the student that you did for the parents, and you'll link their tax information onto the FAFSA as well. So you can follow those steps again. It'll be the same process, even though their wages might be less and they might have less things transfer. It's basically the same steps as well. Again, making sure that that address matches. And then it's gonna ask them some questions. Sometimes it'll let you skip some questions. So if it says, would you like to skip the assets? It's fine to say yes. But otherwise it will make you answer all those questions. And then as you kind of come to the end of the FAFSA, it's going to have you sign, and there are quite a few steps to get the FAFSA signed. You sign the form, you agree that what you provided is accurate and true. The student would be logged in, and so they won't have to enter their user ID and password again. And then the parent's signature, so it might have you enter that parent's user ID and password again. And then after you've provided the signatures, then there will be a submit the FAFSA. And then on page 38, you will get your FAFSA was submitted, and then it'll show estimated expected family contribution. And in that box there, it'll tell you exactly what you're eligible for. So this student was a second-year student. They're qualified for $6,500 in student loans, and then an estimated $39.45 in Pell Grant. And the reason they put estimate for the Pell Grant is because the Pell amounts change typically every year, and so they don't know those until later in 2023 sometime. So that's why the Pell Grant does say estimate, but it gives you a good idea of where you'll be. And then you are completed with your FAFSA, and then you would, you can read your student aid report when that comes back to see if it has any issues on there, such as parent one's information that matches Social Security Administration, or if it tells you were selected for verification. Verification doesn't mean you did anything wrong, it just means that you were selected for a process. They may ask you for identification information, tax return information, and a copy of your high school diploma. So it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. Schools are just required to review so many FAFSAs. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So does the parent that has to apply is the one living with the child? Or-
Yes, so the parent on the FAFSA would be the custodial parent that's providing more than 50% of, yes, support. Yep. But either parent can do the plus loan. So a parent that's not on the FAFSA can still do the plus loan. Any other questions?
If you've had older siblings, you still use the same user ID? I mean,
The parent can always use the same user ID, but each student needs their own. So,
Or can you,
if you forgot,
yeah.
so then you can go to the user ID and password website, And you can say, I forgot my user ID, and they'll text you a code. So if you've had the same phone number, then they'll text you, and then you'll be able to retrieve it, or email, or answer the security questions. So your choice is to retrieve your information or answer your security questions. Text a code or email a code. So when you're doing your security questions, I just encourage people to answer the questions that don't change. Even sometimes your favorite color changes, or maybe you have more than one favorite color, but you know, what was the street address when you were in the 3rd grade? What's your mom's maiden name? What year were you born? Those things that don't change, a lot of times is a good idea to choose as your security.
And then once all this information and what you're eligible is done, then the school that you're going to kind of takes you from there, right? They kind of explain how the loan process works.
Yep,
and
so then
what
they'll
they
reach out to
can-
you through your email that you provided on the FAFSA. So it's really important that students do not use their K-12 email, because that goes away. So be sure that they use an email that they are using and can retrieve. Any other questions?
I signed up already for FAFSA. They gave me the backup code. What is that for? Like, for
Say that
example, if I
again?
lose like the backup code, because I signed up already for myself as a parent.
Okay.
And then they gave me like a backup code, and I was wondering what that's for. Is that when, if I lose my username and password, is that what it is for?
Oh, so they were just verifying information. So they text you a code, and then they want you to enter that code, and then they know that that's your cell phone number. Because if you entered your cell phone number wrong on accident, then you wouldn't be able to retrieve your information. They'd be texting a stranger. So your cell phone's not verified until you text that code back to them. That's all that code is for. You don't ever need it again.
Okay, good.
Yes. You're very welcome. Yes. Any other? That was a good one. Any other questions?
So out of curiosity, this year, 22, 23, they go on 21 taxes then?
So 23.
24.
What year is this? This is 22.
23, 24, and
Well, I get
21.
Financial aid.
Yeah, so you'll
Yeah.
be doing,
Or
a junior, or a senior right now will be doing the 23, 24 FAFSA using your 21 tax advantage.
Oh, okay.
It's 2 years, it's called prior, and it's because a lot of farmers and business owners don't have their taxes done by October, and so then they were unable to have the FAFSA done, and those students were always in trouble because they didn't have their stuff done, and it wasn't anything that they could do, so now they do prior, so they've been doing that for a few years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah. Any other questions?
May I just mention one more thing?
Absolutely.
Right now is the free application period in our state of South Dakota. So if your son or daughter isn't sure where they want to go, but they know of a few schools, they can apply to those universities. I think a lot of private ones are doing it as well, where they're waiving the application fee, so you can apply and you don't have to worry about it. So if they're not sure, they might want to just put a couple of schools down, just to keep things
We don't
moving
ever
along.
charge, so.
Right.
But when you do apply at schools, then they're gonna reach out to your student. And so then if you have questions, then that admissions person is gonna be able to give you more information about whatever program you're interested in, what that program leads to, and those kinds of things. So if you're unsure and you just want to apply to have your application in, they're gonna reach out to you, and then you'll get more information and then maybe that'll help you make your decision.
What is the deadline for the FAFSA?
Schools have different priority deadlines, sometimes, March or April.